Obviously we have a special guest speaker of Becky. So Becky's going to share a little bit about the connection we have with organ, eye, and tissue donation, and then I will jump in and talk a little bit about blood donation and our blood drive, which is on Monday, the 16th, or Tuesday, sorry. No, Monday.
No, Monday.
I'm like, what day is this? So we'll talk a little bit about that and what it means to donate blood and how you can save lives right now. So without further ado, Becky, come up and share your wonderful story.
Because you're a tough crowd for me because I don't normally cry at these things, and because of my history here, this could be emotional for me. So I'll try and get through this without not making any sense. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Becky Barnell. My son Colton Joseph Lasker went here in 2009 to 2010 for 7.5 months. He was one of your extraordinary patients. But he graduated the program after 7.5 months successfully. Colton was here voluntarily, not through the court system, but would have been if it weren't for just some crazy awesome thing that I had leveraged that he thought I had that I really didn't have. So it worked out great. You guys understand a lot of what goes on with the kids, but I'm going to give you just a little bit of background, and then I'm going to tell you how life connects to us. So Colton left here in 2010. He was doing well for a while. What I didn't know until later is that he had gone back to using quite quickly after he left. It started out with marijuana, of course. That's the thing that they say they're never going to do that they go back to. And then before he came in, he was doing Oxycontin and all the things. He wasn't shooting up, but Oxycontin is the transition and other things too. So when he got out, he was 17 years old. He was using lightly after that, and then by the time he was 19, he was shooting heroin. We were in and out of, we came back here at the age of 19. When I found out what it was, he had just gotten arrested. His only choice was to come here or be homeless. We came here, he stayed for 2 months the second time, and at that point he was a little bit older, a little more resistant to what was happening. He understood the program, and he accepted the disease, but he didn't accept that he had it. So Colton was good at never turning it around and saying, hey, this is your fault, Mom, or Dad, this is your fault, or it's my teacher's fault, or he didn't blame anybody, which is unusual, especially at that age. But he couldn't accept that that was his for the rest of his life. So when he went to continue to use, it escalated like you would expect. He stayed here for about 2 months, and then he wanted to leave after he decided that this wasn't going to work for him because he already had been through it and he understood what was going on. So he was going to be taken to a shelter that night, and his sponsor actually took him in, and I allowed him to go there instead. And I didn't really have the option to allow it. The kid was 19. He and I just had this kind of unbelievable connected relationship that kind of gave me, through our love for each other, a connection that I was just lucky to have. It doesn't matter what parent, we all love our kids. Some of us just get lucky and they're more worried about our love than they are about the other thing that they're going to do. Now that didn't keep him from using, but it did scare him enough that instead of the homeless shelter, he did go there thinking I never wanted to see him again, which of course wasn't the truth. I had to take that hard line, and it was really scary for me. Fast forward, it was an up and down process. We had a lot of trouble getting help for him. Every time we needed it, we were turned away. He went to ECMC many times in deep detox, hoping that they would take him into their program to get him into detox so we could find a bed. They wouldn't. They would turn him away. And I gotta say, there's really nothing harder in my whole life than one of the hardest things I've ever been through is the doctors and hospitals saying, sorry, we can't help you, go figure this out. We don't know if you're close enough to death, so go figure this out. And at the time, when we would make phone calls, all the places, their beds would be full. And no matter what, and I had friends that were losing their kids because the beds were full. So we saw a phone number on the TV, and it was like calling a broker, which was weird, but it worked. But he ended up in Florida. I couldn't get him help here because I didn't know the right people to call. And even though I had been here, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know at his age. I probably should have called and they would have given me some information, but I never actually thought to call here. I was calling all the rehabs in the area and the hospitals trying to find a place for him to get help. In the process of that, he ended up in Florida for the last year of his life. He was in Florida for most of that year, and then he went to North Carolina. But while he was in Florida, and to get him there, we talked to a broker who then did the intake, who I then got on the phone with and said, how do I know you're not just someone who's gonna kill my son when he gets there? How do I know who you are? How do I know what you do? I looked them up, they were 10 years old, they were reputable. He got on a plane the next day, they took him off, he was in detox, he stayed in rehab for a little over a month. It was awesome, he actually went into a decent halfway house, and the ball was rolling. He relapsed in the halfway house, they sent him back to detox, they put him in he got into a halfway house that wasn't as good. And he relapsed, but so the difference for me was, and he called it failure, and I call it success, and Jody's heard me say this probably only once before, I call it falling forward. The less time between I'm using and I need help, I call that falling forward, because there is a break, whether you're going years. He was every time less and less time using and asking for help. So this time it was 3 weeks, then it was 2 weeks, then it was 1 day. Each time they moved him into a crappier place after he would get out of detox, to where he was in places with bed bugs, everybody was stealing his stuff, it was a money grab. He actually was afraid for his life. When he went to one of the meetings down there, he met some people that had a place that they knew about that was connected spiritually. They actually rescued him that night and took him to that other place. He got into a grant. After that, he got his first 90 days clean since he had been here. And it was extraordinary, but then he relapsed for 1 day. And then he called me, and he again went to detox, and after that, he said, I think I've learned what I can learn down here. I wonder if Graham will let me come to North Carolina, which she actually did. His confusion in the relapse, and you may or may not hear this all the time, he actually finally, for the first time ever, turned over his heart, soul, and body. And when he did that, and he relapsed, he called, he goes, I was doing everything I could not to use. I didn't want to use. I thought that if I really did this, I turned myself over to God. I've done this. I'm doing every step. I'm seeing my sponsor every day. I want my life. And so that 1 day relapse, he thought it was failure. I thought it was success. But he couldn't get past the part where it was failure. And then he was mad, because he's like, but this time I honestly did what they said to do. And I relapsed anyway, so what does that mean? And then he was asking all those questions. So that's a big problem for someone when they really, really turn it over, because you're not gonna stop. That 1 day relapse to me was amazing. Because to do it one time and then go say, hey, I used, he knew he was gonna get kicked out of where he was. He knew, and he was down there with nobody. He had no help, he had nobody there. I thought it was extraordinary. So he did go to North Carolina. In the process of this, Colton went from about 120 pounds to 170. He learned a tremendous amount. He stayed sober with the exception of a little bit of alcohol and probably marijuana for a very long. He didn't use marijuana at all anymore at that point. He was drinking once in a while. He never could just kind of get it. He never could stay in control of it. If he went on Suboxone, he was using it and selling it and going to use. He was on Vivitrol for 18 months. That's the only time that he was clean from opiates, but it did keep him from using acid and weed and all the other stuff. He functioned better at a higher level. It still was no good for him. Because he just couldn't, he was that guy. It's either all in or all out. And I know that you meet a lot of people like that. And we had, like I said, an extraordinary relationship. So he wasn't allowed to live at home. I have 2 younger daughters who also came here for the family counseling. I gotta say, if you all don't know this, and I don't know how long you've been there, I know Daryl, I know Jody, and I've been a part of what you guys do, but I don't recognize any of your faces. You are every day changing somebody's life. You are every day, the impact of Renaissance House still affects me every single day of my life. And my daughters. It's huge, it's extraordinary. In 2016, on Colton's 23rd birthday, he had been back for about 6 weeks from North Carolina, and he had relapsed. Again, he came to me at work and told me that he had planned his suicide for that day. He was then working where I work. He planned his suicide for that day, and he said, and the difference is I've thought of it a lot. I've thought of it so many times. kept me from doing it is that I just don't want that to be what I do to you guys, but I can't do this anymore. I can't recover again. I can't. I just can't. I don't have it in me. But the fact that he didn't commit suicide that day meant he did have it in him. He did it. He had a chance again because he didn't pull the trigger, which to him was going to be an OD, a purposeful OD. So we went back to ECMC, and this time Colton knew the trilogy to have in his system. He knew what to have, so they could not let him go. I wish that I could say that we should teach everybody that, but it would be the wrong thing to say. But when you can't get in somewhere, it works, like it or not, it's a fact. They couldn't turn him away. They kept him for 7 days on the 8th floor, which is not the recovery floor, but by some grace of God, he was there for 8 days in recovery, detoxing. And the last time I hugged him was his last day in the hospital. Colton got out, and I don't know, you might remember Colton had the best hugs in the world. Like, they were like solid. When he was hugging you, he was all in. So the day that I was leaving him at the hospital, I gave him a quick hug because I was going to see him later the next morning. And he's like, no, give me a real hug, Mom, you know. And that was my last contact with him physically. And the next day we were on the phone, and he was like high. He wasn't high, I just was like, God, did he just use, because he was in a euphoric state. Like, he was singing to me on the phone and telling me how his life was going to change again. I was getting ready the next day to take him to North Carolina for him to give it a try with his grandparents, because he was successfully going to work and doing things down there that were really healthy, and he loved working with his grandfather, and there was a lot of good stuff. So it was a crazy phone call. He was talking about all these great things and how things were going to be. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he was in this really euphoric state, which scared the crap out of me. So I immediately called his dad. He was at his dad's house for the night until I picked him up the next day. And I'm like, did he use? He's like, no, he's been with me all day. He's right here. He's good. No. But when I was talking to him on the phone, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my son tonight. So I called his dad to verify, and he's like, no, he's good. 2.5 hours later, I got that phone call that nobody ever wants to get. He didn't actually OD. There were no drugs in his system. He had an arrhythmia that took his life that night. He was pronounced dead on his 23rd birthday, June 23rd, 2016. And when all that was happening, the most extraordinary thing in my life to this day, what happened while I was in that hospital saved me from the way that Colton would die. He was on life support. They had resuscitated him when he had the arrhythmia. He was on life support. And a group of people came in and they talked to me, and it was then called units, and it's Connect Life, and they asked, once he was pronounced dead, that if he had any intention of donating his organs. And they do it in the most delicate way. And I said, he never actually said it, but of course that's what Colton would want. So for the next 24 hours, they kept him on life support. What they did for us in that hospital over the next 24 hours, probably, I can't say it saved my life because I have 2 daughters that I absolutely live for, but they made his death almost angelic, which most parents don't get the opportunity to say. Colton saved 4 lives with 5 of his organs. They took his kidneys, his heart, his pancreas, and his liver. They couldn't use his lungs. It was the only thing by the time they were done that they couldn't do. But while we were in that, and that sisters, if anybody's in the ICU, that's where they need to be in ICU. That they were extraordinary. But what Connect Life did for us and the way that they helped me, by the time Colton was being taken off life support, I sang, we were in the room, the girls had already left. Of course, this was all 2 days before my daughter's graduation, and my nephew was graduating that night. So I told them to say goodbye, and then they left, and the rest of us that evening around 9 o'clock was when he was going to be taken off life support. So we sang to him before we walked out, and I left there on the biggest high you can imagine. I was like almost giddy. It was like, I walked out going, I cannot believe how happy and peaceful I feel right now. Like, the peace that I had from it was extraordinary. I don't know where it came from, except for to know that Colton so badly wanted to have God take him out. And I have said since he died that God took him out fair and square. He wasn't high, he didn't commit suicide, and he didn't have to live this way anymore. Colton really was one of those people that may have never been able to recover. He was extraordinary in every way to me. I'm his mother, but what he did for the people, which I didn't realize how many people he had touched, the relationships he built were a direct reflection of his time in here. The therapy that he went through, the therapy the family went through. When Colton came here, he was not able to articulate his feelings. He was just frustrated. He was that 16-year-old boy that was mad and frustrated and didn't know why he was alive anyway and what was the purpose. He was angry at his dad. He was angry at so many things, and he had no way to use all that. And me trying to teach him how to codependency wasn't, I had the opportunity to learn it from things in my past, but me teaching it to him was almost useless. But you guys taught him that. This place, Daryl taught him that, and Jody taught him that, and Tim taught him that, and his one counselor, I don't remember her name right now, the one that he was with one-on-one, and she retired not too long after Colton left here. In 2019, she must have retired in 2018 or 2019. Those were the people that changed his life and gave him a way to communicate with the rest of the world and understand what was happening with him. Didn't stop the addiction from happening, but it gave him tools. It dug him out when he needed to dig out. He used every one of those tools to do it. There's nothing short of extraordinary about that. Because I have a sister that's 51 years old, or she's probably 52 now. She's been an addict since she was 18. She still to this day doesn't know any of the tools. She's never accepted her addiction. She doesn't understand that it's her problem. She is not speaking, obviously, to anyone in the family because nobody can let her come close to them or she hurts them. But she's not willing. She didn't get what Colton got at a young age. And I don't know, I always said, thank God that it happened to him while he was young, because if he would have been older, we never would have got these opportunities that we had. He never would have been able to, just as a teenager, to learn the things that he learned here in such an intensive way. What you guys do on a day-to-day basis changes these kids' lives, and he thrived in a situation like this, and it let him know that it was possible. But like I said, the relapses we all know are normal. What you do when you relapse matters. What you know when you relapse matters. What the family knows when you relapse matters. Because relapses are gonna happen until they don't. We didn't get there. But what Connect Life did for us, and I talk about it anytime I can, I just this Christmas was given a gift from his father, actually, who got with Connect Life, and Colton's heart beats inside of someone else, which to me, there could be nothing better. If I've got to lose him, his physical self, knowing that his heart is still beating, I was given the gift of his heartbeat that still beats in someone else. I got that this Christmas. It was awesome, because he was able to stay alive through that person. And one of the things I found out from a heart recipient actually is that you actually, when you first get the heart, a lot of people take on different things that the other person had, cravings, music, crazy stuff, because your heart is its own brain. So think of it, when you're a fetus, your heart beats before you have a brain. So your heart has its own thing. So when it goes to somebody else and it's beating in them, they also get part of you with it. It goes away after a little while, but when they first get it, there's remnants of you there, and they feel it. It's extraordinary to hear those stories. I haven't yet asked to meet the people, which is just laziness on my part. Because of Colton, and because of what you guys have done, and because of what they do, I have an opportunity to go out and talk to a lot of people and do a lot of crazy awesome things. Cole's Journey to Liberation is that. It's out there to talk about all the other places that are out there to help people, because when Colton needed help, we couldn't find it. And that's not fair. That's not fair that anyone who's begging for their life gets turned away. At the very least, they should be taken in, and if they aren't successful, then great. Then other things can happen. But nobody, when they're saying, please help me save my life, should be told no. And it's for a lot of reasons that you know about, it's for a lot of reasons that I will never understand. 6 months after Colton died, I found out about Evergreen, addict to addict. Some places I could have made a phone call, and in 24 hours they would have had him. First, they would have taken him off of my insurance, because it was hindering him. And secondly, they would have got him in somewhere. They would have found a way to get him in. So I make sure people don't have to wait. If they go to our website, we're a resource, you're on there. You're the resource for the young people. I talk about Renaissance House and kids escaping drugs on a daily and weekly basis, depending on the conversation I have. You're the only people I know that do what you do for children and young adults. And there are, unfortunately, I'm just finding out the way the laws are changing have changed that. The other thing I would like to say that I think is a tragedy that I even had to think of it, when Colton was 19 and I realized that he was shooting heroin, I then understood that not only, because as a parent, you never want that to be your reality. You're like, we're gonna get this. When he graduated here, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be awesome. He's gonna be one of those ones that doesn't relapse. I think probably every one of us wants to believe that, right? But when I realized he was shooting heroin and doing crack, I realized that his life was hanging in the balance on a daily basis. I actually took life insurance out on Colton, because I thought if he passed away for any for unknown reason or known reason, I would not be able to do the right thing for him, and it would cause a lot of stress on myself and my girls. So I had taken a small policy out so that if should I ever have to, I would be able to give him what he needed and take the time with my kids that I needed, and I unfortunately ended up having to do that and use it. So I recommend that parents do, when they have a child that's in deep addiction, that's a reality that they have to face. It's a backup plan. It sucks to have it as a backup plan, but it is. I also recommend that if you can, if everybody investigates the idea of life after life, in the sense of organ donation and the blood platelets, when we do every year we do like an event to raise money, and these guys, I invite them so that they can get any platelets that they can. I don't even understand what platelets do. I just know that when they need them right now, and there's not a lot of them available, and it's saving people's lives. The blood, of course, saves people's lives. And the organs, listening to someone who receives an organ, I've had the opportunity to hear people that have had the organ. I listened to a double lung transplant recipient. How extraordinary. How extraordinary. For them, as much as losing our own family matters, knowing that if that had to happen, that we were able to save another life, it's huge for me. And what we do with Cole's Journey is spread about all of what you guys do and what everybody else is out there doing. So please, if you ever go on the website, look at resources, if you know of more, get a hold of me, because we're adding stuff all the time, and right now I'm in the process of revamping the website to take it to another level so that we can continue to do the building that we want to do. So we can tell people about you guys and everybody else. Connect Life is part of what we talk about. Like it or not, it's just part of the deal. I can't imagine ever having gone through this without them, and I'm not one of the lucky ones that didn't lose Colton, but I'm one of the lucky ones that didn't find him a few days later. I'm one of the lucky ones that got to, even though he wasn't there, say goodbye to him while he was still born. While he would, while his heart still beat on its own, he wasn't breathing on his own. People don't get that closure for the most part, and it's tragic. I don't know how people get through this. When people say to me, hey, how do you do it? I don't know either. I can't imagine. I still don't know how to tell you how to imagine what it's like to lose a child, because I still can't imagine it. I miss him every day, but it's like he just moved away. So I don't know that reality is ever gonna be reality. And I've noticed as the years go by, it becomes a little bit more real, but I still feel like he's just living somewhere else. And I'm just, because I can still hear his voice. I still have recordings with his voice on it. I still now get to listen to his heartbeat, which I honestly don't do very often. It's not because it's disturbing, but it's somebody else's now. It's still his to me, but I think of things kind of different like that. I enjoy being able to talk to you guys about this. I hope that if you have any questions that you will ask, if you know anybody that's even considering it, ask them to help, ask them to be a part of it. Don't be afraid to stick your foot in it and say, hey, I don't know what, I'm not afraid to talk about anything, because I'm afraid of secrets. Since secrets are what kills us, and or our loved ones, and it really doesn't matter what the secret is. I tell people all the time, you could be being molested, you could be being beat, you could have a drug user in your house, you could be the drug user. You're telling yourself one thing so you can get through it, and somebody else is getting hurt, and or you. Pretty soon somebody could die. So I believe the secrets kill, and they're not meant to be kept, and I encourage everybody to say that out loud. It scares people, it scares a lot of people. And you guys know that better than anyone, because everybody has some kind of shame. We're just human. We're just living this life, and we're all doing it the same way, and none of us get a script. So here it is. I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes. All I can do is hope that I learn from them and move forward. But I'm just like everybody sitting in this room, and it doesn't matter where we come from. So if I can encourage everybody to do the human thing, then it would be that. Talk about it, and talk about this. This is a crappy thing to have to talk about, but it's real. It's the reality, and it doesn't matter if you're young or old. It doesn't matter why. Guys, people die from going in the hospital with a broken leg, and they come out and they pass away. And I've actually known people that happened to. And I know someone else who got their whole body crushed and came out and they're still alive 10 years later. I don't know how it works. I'm grateful Colton got taken out the way he did, fair and square. And I hope when I have to go that that's the way I get to go. But I don't imagine this is an easy conversation for people to have, but I think it's one we have to have. I'm about done, I think. But I don't need to talk to you guys about the things I talk to so many other people about, because you're already living it. So I appreciate your time. I hope that you tell people about us while we tell people about you, because there's a lot of people when they leave here that they don't know what to do. Tell them about the website where the resources are. If they need to make a phone call, all they gotta do is make a phone call, and we'll help them facilitate information. Because that's the one thing when you leave that you're the most like, okay, now what? And Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, those are all awesome programs. People are afraid of them. They're just afraid of them. Some of them go, a lot of them don't. I can't believe actually how many people don't. So please, tell them about that. If you get the opportunity, share as much of the Connect Life as you can, because it does make a difference. And if you're the mom of someone who that happens to, it's extraordinary, really extraordinary. So thanks guys, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Obviously, nothing I say is going to be as impactful as what you shared today. We changed our name from Units to Connect Life, and Becky is just a true example of how we're connected as our organizations, how we as an organization are able to connect lives every single day through those that have unfortunately lost their life and are able to save someone else. And I don't think I introduced myself earlier. I'm Andrea Wall. I work for Connect Life. I've worked here about 4.5 years. And actually, when I started, I had zero connection to the mission. I signed up to be an organ donor when I got my license. It seemed like the right thing to do. In the last 4.5 years, I can now say that 3 people close to me in my life have had an organ transplant. So thank God that they did. Unfortunately, 22 people pass away every single day because they didn't get the organ that they needed. We're here to encourage you to sign up. I do have organ donor registry cards. I can take them back with me, and we can get you on the registry. Obviously, when you go to the DMV, it gives you that opportunity to sign up as well. Most importantly, though, talk to your families. My former coworker, her and I started out at Connect Life doing education in the schools. We have about 78 clubs in Western New York high schools. We do the stream program with the diocese and about 20 middle school aged kids. And now she is one of the people that is making the ask in the hospital. So she would sit with Becky and their family and talk to them about what it means to be an organ donor and getting their permission. So no matter if you're signed up or not, that decision still ultimately lies with your next of kin. So having that conversation and making it easy for them is the most important thing. So, and like Becky said, the support that we give doesn't just last that one day, it lasts forever. We have families that I'm sure just like you guys, that's the part that we love with our mission. So, obviously, what are things that we can do now? We all hope that every one of us and everyone we love is gonna live full, happy, and healthy lives. And, but there are things that we can do now to save lives, and that's through blood donation. So we have our blood drive coming up on Monday, March 16th. You're able to save 3 lives when you donate blood. Every pint of blood is split into the 3 components that save different people. So platelets, for example, save all of those that are chronically ill. So just the way you fall down and get a scab and that crusty substance forms, it does that same kind of stuff inside your body, so that heals you from the inside out as well. Your red blood cells are needed for accidents, for any type of surgery. And I think we were talking even yesterday, things that you don't even think about. My friend had a routine hysterectomy, and she was told you'll need 2 units of blood. When her surgery was done, they told her she used 4. So 4 people had to donate blood just for a routine surgery. We've been going through a really, really tough time. And this was even before the coronavirus, of blood shortages throughout the United States. People just aren't coming out to donate. I don't know if we're busy, everyone's working a lot of hours, you barely have time for your family. So, our goal is to just make it as easy as possible. Quick, easy, hopefully accessible, so that you can continue to make that part of your routine. Because we weren't able to even import blood from October until the middle of February. We were at a blood shortage. Finally, in the middle of February, we got an email that the hospitals were at 100% of the blood that they'd like to have on hand, and now the coronavirus hit. So people are panicking, so just to touch on that very quickly, as long as you're feeling healthy that day, we accept your blood donation. It's not a bloodborne disease, it's just airborne, and all of our blood is tested and healthy enough before it's being put into a patient. So again, just informing everyone to still come out and donate so that blood supply does not drop as well. So, again, if anyone has any personal questions about why you may or may not be eligible, even if I can't answer it, we have a registered nurse on duty that knows everything under the sun and gives a very detailed explanation. So I can connect you with Christine as well. One in 7 patients entering a hospital need blood, and every 2 seconds someone needs blood. So the more that we can kind of keep that supply up, the better. Does anyone have any questions on blood donation or the process?
Is there any kind of medication or situations that would preclude you from donating?
So if you have a bloodborne cancer, you are not able to donate for life. Certain cancers, it's just a 5-year deferral period from when you were your last surgery or when you're cleared. There's a couple cancer meds that preclude you, but not all. And then very few daily medications. So, obviously any types of birth control, anti-anxiety meds, depression meds, all of those are fine. So it's very few things. Most importantly, especially now, we're saying if you don't feel well, even just a tickle in your throat, do not donate. But for the most part, most things. The most common thing right now that we see is tattoos. That's unfortunately a 1-year deferral period, and that's just because we're regulated by the state and the government, and tattoo parlors are only regulated by the county. So we can't really, match that, but those change all the time. There are some travel restrictions, so obviously where any malaria countries will preclude you, and that's a little bit more common. I think the most right now is Punta Cana. So that precludes you, I think, for about a year, but again, I ask just that we double check it all. The binder is like this thick and it changes so constantly. So that really is the most common things.
What about, somebody wanted me to ask, they were in Desert Storm.
That what?
They were in Desert Storm?
It depends where they were and what years. It just depends. And I can pass on our nurse's info, and she can look it up in the binder to double check. I had somebody come out to a blood drive, and literally the part of the country she was in was this big, and that's the only spot she happened to be in, and she was able to donate. But the whole rest of the country was malaria ridden, so it was just, the odds were so crazy that she didn't even travel out of that tiny little town. So it's so hard for me to answer off the top of my head.
What about thyroid medication?
Thyroid medication's okay. Even
Nice.
procedure is really simple. We ask that you drink a lot of water, we ask that you eat a ton of food that day. Like when I say a big breakfast, like a breakfast sandwich, something that has protein, carbs, you lose a pound and 650 calories. So if you're lightheaded and don't feel good after that experience, right, it's because you didn't eat well. And then again, we just ask that the remainder of the day that you eat more calories than you normally would, and then, just kind of take it easy that day. So you're allowed to get the royal treatment.
How long does it take to eat?
It's a great question. So you're only in the chair for the blood draw for about 6 to 12 minutes. We can't keep you in the chair longer than that. So again, drink your water. I know. And these are my tips. Don't look. Drink your water because you'll be in and out of the chair faster. My last time was 6 minutes, and somebody beat me by 5. So you better believe I'm beating them next time. So I'm gonna drink way more water than I did the time before.
Do they still get like sweets out after you?
Absolutely. The treats, they have upgraded the snacks amazingly. And here's my tip that I learned. If you eat a sweet and a salty snack after, you feel really great.
Okay.
So pick a sugary and a chip or something. So and then once that 6 to 12 minutes passes, you guys get to hang out and, eat your snacks and tell everyone what a hero you were. And if anyone's nervous, I'll be here the whole time and I'll hold your hand. I'm good at that. Or I'll talk a lot and distract you. So, any last questions on donation?
You mentioned Colton. Is that where they have high malaria? Okay.
Yeah, right now it's a high risk of malaria there. Yeah, and it's so commonly traveled because it's been really inexpensive to get there, so that's been our biggest pet peeve right now. No, go to Punta Cana. One of my coworkers is going, like, what are you doing?
Last year they were poisoning everybody.
Right? Yeah.
So can you, so even if you take a vaccination or anything like that, and then go and come back, you still can?
Yeah, they still ask you for the 1-year deferral.
Okay.
Not 2 years?
Just one.
And you shouldn't not take your medicine.
No, take all your meds, eat and drink a ton of stuff, yes, don't avoid anything, yeah. Treat yourself the way you normally would, just a little bit better, even with the calorie intake and the water.
She was an older lady. She was
Yeah.
short. Wasn't sister.
Any questions on organ donation or the process?
No.
And one thing we didn't talk about was the other little parts of our mission that, are not so much life-saving, but more life-enhancing is, eye and tissue. So you can prepare skin, the corneas, the sclera, the white part of your eye, bones, veins, capillaries, and tissues, and we do that to enhance someone's life. So they're used in surgeries, and we send those to a processor, and they break them down the way that like a doctor would request them, almost like a pharmacy prescription refill. And that really enhances people. If you ever talk to anyone that has been given that gift, it's really life-changing for them. My cousin's other aunt received a cornea transplant, and out of the blue sent me a message and just said, I had no idea how this would change my life. She spent 5 years not driving, homebound because she couldn't see well, and had a cornea transplant within a couple of weeks, and she said, I can't tell you the last time I saw this well in my life. So it's really impactful.
For organs, you can choose certain organs that you don't want to be
You can.
donated, right?
Yeah.
I think I was here last year too.
Yeah.
But I think you could tell your family, I want everything except for my eyes.
You
I
can.
would really feel weird about someone else
Yeah.
having my eyes, but
Yes.
everything else be okay.
Yeah, and actually on the cards right there, it literally says, and you can check off what you do or don't want to donate.
Okay.
And some people feel that way about the heart too. So, even how Becky talked about, the heart's sensitive sometimes. So, we don't. So we do after death donation mostly. We do a lot of stuff with See the Match. A couple of our coworkers worked in leukemia and lymphoma. They do a little bit more of that. We deal mostly with after death.
Okay.
The only thing that we do that actually is very life-bearing is we do placenta donation. So moms having a scheduled C-section can donate their placenta, and that makes up to 100 amnion grafts. So instead of having upwards of 30 surgeries for a burn victim, they can have maybe knock that down to 5. they'll put an amnion graft down and then put the skin graft over it, and the healing is like almost 10 times as fast. It's crazy. They do it in dental surgeries, ocular, and that shows how fast science moves too, because when I first started at Units, when it was Units, now Connect Life, we would procure every white part of the eye, the sclera, every single one. Most 99% of people could probably donate that. We would take those donations. Now they're using the placenta in the eye, they're using frozen corneas in place of that. So now they think they only procure from about 5 people a year, because the amnion grafts have been so healing. A lot of dental surgeries, it's been like a miracle. So, and it has to be a scheduled C-section just because of like being sterile, but I heard that they're really trying hard to be able to procure every placenta. It's been unbelievable. And so we have some techs, like we have a newer like college grad, she actually interned in our community relations department for a while, and she like prefers that. Every mom that schedules a C-section, she jumps on that procurement, because she said it's so much happier, but you can see the gratification. So, yeah, so that's the only thing we do that's like really. Everything else is after death. Yeah, no problem. Any last questions? Yeah, thank you guys so